Welcome, everybody. I'm Dan Conger. I am the host of Wednesday Wind Down with Dan and Friends, the webinar and YouTube show for people that don't get out as often as they want because of COVID-19, and for people that like to hang out and drink with their friends. So we're doing it remotely, right? That's what this is all about. So I'm Dan Conger. I'm the host. Tonight, I'm drinking Walker 805. So Mike, Sonya, would you introduce yourself?
My name's Sonya Schaefer. I am a leader with Sierra Cup. I'm drinking Coke.
Okay, fair enough.
I'm her husband, Mike, and a little Beam and 7-Up.
Oh, nice. Awesome. Kit, you're up.
I'm Kit, and I am drinking kombucha.
Now, what kind of kombucha is that? Because it's funny, I didn't think I'd like kombucha until Jill made a couple batches. I'm like, ooh, this is actually pretty good.
Well, honesty compels me. It's hard kombucha.
Ooh, even better. Even better. And we realized if you let it go a little longer, you get the hard kombucha, or if you do a secondary fermentation.
Yeah, but it really is, there's not very much to it. This is called Giant, Giant, and they make the best kombucha ever. They really do.
Good deal.
Sprouts.
So tonight, this is our second recurrence of when shit went wrong, right? And the whole concept is when you go out on the trail, you sit around the campfire, you're sitting around eating dinner, especially if you got new people around, you're going to tell them those horror stories. It's like, there I was on the edge of the cliff, and I had two orphans in my hands, and there's a bear attacking, and there's a mountain lion. Like, did you die? No, I'm here. But this is, so we've got those stories. Unfortunately, no mountain lion stories tonight. But also the lessons that you learn from it, right? So it's not just horror stories, it's the lessons we're going to learn. So with that, we're going to turn it over to Sonya and Mike and let them tell us their story. I'm going to stop them before they get to the punchline, and we'll find out, did they die?
I don't know yet, so we'll have to see. But our story starts off with, we were scouting a trip. We went on it before, and we wanted to, lead a group through. So we were out there trying to find the trail. We didn't know where the trail was. The person that did it with us was no longer available to tell us. So we were just like, we'll just go out there. And it was actually in Borrego. It was the calcite mine trail. So we were heading up the fire road. That part was super easy because that's a fire road, goes right to the calcite mine. But we were going to go down the Slot Canyon to see that beautiful part of Borrego, and we had to find it. So we went up there.
So we got to the top of the calcite mines, and of course, if you've ever been there, you can hang a left and you head east. You head west, and as you're heading west toward the mountains, there are about 3 or 4 trails. So we explored each one of them a little bit before we figured out which one goes into the Slot Canyon.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we found it.
We
the
did.
entrance to the Slot Canyon.
Yeah, we found the entrance to the Slot Canyon, and of course, once we found the entrance, there had been a whole lot of.
Hold on, I'm frozen. Okay, there we go.
So there had been a lot of rain since the last time we had been there, and it had washed a whole lot of the trail away that goes down into the Slot Canyon. So at that point, you just throw your sticks so that way you don't fall on them and run down the hill and run down the dirt and hope it doesn't get in your shoes. So
Interesting.
Yeah. So that wasn't that was okay.
A problem.
Yeah, it
doesn't sound worthy of a story yet.
No, not yet.
So the whole trail is kind of like a figure 8. So you kind of go up the calcite mine, you go around, and you cross the trail again, and then you come out at a different way to hook up with the road again. So we're continuing down the Slot Canyon. It's beautiful, no problem. We get to the point where we cross the trail. We're like, yeah, we're on the way. We got it right. And I do have my topo map, so I'm checking it. I have my Gaia.
Now, are you still going in, or are you coming out?
We're going out.
You're coming out. Okay, so you're coming out. Okay, got it.
So I have, I'm checking. I'm using both of my navigation devices with his help, and we're looking at it. So, good, we're on our way. So I know what the topo where we're at. So we keep walking, and we're like, okay, we're going to go, what is it, west, did you say?
Yes.
So we were looking for the west turn.
Although, okay, I'm gonna throw something out here that when we talked the other day, you said we wanted to turn right.
Yeah.
And that caught my ear. Turn right. You did today. you're saying turn west. And like,
that's because somebody asked us what direction that was, that we were going to turn right, and that would have been west.
Any hints on where this story's going, people? I got an idea. Okay, continue.
So we're walking and we're by ourselves and we like to talk and Mike likes to talk and we're just talking, going along the trail, and every once in a while I'm checking my my map and looking around. We saw one little cutoff to the west, but we're like, no, that's not it. That it doesn't go that direction. We knew it wasn't that way. So we kept on walking, and as we're walking, I'm just looking up, and if you ever saw canyons, really high, it was 30 feet high, and I'm looking at it. I'm looking at my topo map, and I'm watching it, and I'm like, I think we passed it. And just thinking about the time and how long we've been walking, and I'm not sure. I mean, I knew where we were on the map and the Gaia. So, but I said, I think we passed our turnoff.
The road doesn't show on the map, by the way. The road that goes off to the west or right doesn't show on the map. You just have to see it.
Now, Mike, did you agree with her that you think that you weren't where you going the direction you should have been?
I absolutely agreed with her because because at that point when we were in that, and we were actually out of the slot canyon, now it was just a giant wash, but there was a 30-foot cliff beside us that was just a sheer face.
We kept looking, going, this goes over.
Okay, so
I think we're going a long direction.
Yeah. So I think we're at the crux of your story here. So I'm going to stop and say, Mike and Sonya went out, they're heading back, and they realized they're not going the direction they thought they were. Now, there's probably some semantics, or maybe not, on whether they were lost or not, right? The other day when we talked, you're like, we weren't lost, we knew where we were. I'm like,
we did.
Okay, well, we could argue about that, but that's a whole nother discussion, and we need a few more beverages for that. But so you weren't going the direction you thought, or you knew the general area you were. There was a couple things you could do at that point, and let's talk about those. So why don't you throw out a couple of things that you could do? Tell us ultimately what you did, but tell us some options.
Well, I know we stopped and we talked about it. So we're like, okay, let's look to see if we continue forward and keep going down this wash, where are we going to end up? And I said, well, there's a road way up there, and we probably measured it, but it was a few miles away with steep cliffs, no way to get over to the road. And then we're going to totally pass where our campsite was. So we could go straight. We could go all the way back to where the trail crossed, where we knew. So we could do that. So no
one wants to go all the way back. So we're going to.
I never go back. I never go back. I find a way going forward. I never go back, man.
And then our third.
Okay, so we just need to say, friends, don't do that at home. We need like a big disclaimer. When I record this, I'm going to put a big disclaimer on there. Wrong. Okay, so what did you actually do?
Well, the third option is to go back, but to find some way over. Find a wash or something where it's easier for us to go up rather than this 30-foot steep.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And we could see that there were some on the map. I could see some washes, but we weren't sure whether we could get up them if they were.
Okay.
So, you want me to tell you what we chose?
Yeah, please tell us. We're dying to know.
Go ahead.
So we backtracked just a little ways, and we found a spot that I thought I could go up. So she stayed at the bottom of the wash, and
I was going to go look.
I went to the top so that way I could see where she was and see if I could see the road. Mm-hmm. And so I went up the wash, and it took me a little longer than I thought it would because it was pretty daggone steep. And I got to the top, I'm huffing and puffing, and I'm looking, and I was pretty sure the road was over there, but you couldn't see it. But we were in a much better spot if she got to the top. But I knew she wasn't going to be able to come up the same way I did. So then we went just a little bit further back, and she came up a much easier wash. When we got to the top, we walked around, because once we walked a little bit, you could see the road.
But there was a big.
There was another wash between us and the road. So we walked around that, found the road, and got back. Another thing that we left out was, as we were walking down that wash at the bottom, we started to think about what time it was because it was already getting dusk. And the last thing we wanted to do was be out there in the dark. Now we had headlamps, right?
We
had everything we needed. We had our 10
essentials.
essentials. We even had food. We could have stayed there in the wash. I wanted to go back to my sleeping bag at the tent.
So I like the idea. I know there's one more part that I want you to share, but I like this idea that you went to a high point to find landmarks. We kind of talked about some of the landmarks which is you can't navigate when you can't see what's going on. And that's really challenging about slot canyons, right? And even with GPS or some other satellite communicator, it may not have coverage in a slot canyon. Maybe you do, maybe you don't. But that makes them hard. And you could be one drainage off, and it can make all the difference in the world. Okay, so you are going towards where your camp are. There's a bonus problem on this one when you come back to your tent.
So it went past dusk on the way back to the tent, and we crossed the S2. We go down the Jeep trail, and as we're going down the Jeep trail, I see the car that we went past to park our truck and place our tent.
A different car, different people.
Yeah, it wasn't our car, but I saw the car we went past. So I went, we're almost there. And then I said, did they put a tent up back there? And of course, we started having a discussion about the tent.
Well, he says, well, isn't that our tent? And I said, no, that's not our tent. We couldn't see that car from our tent.
Our tent's way over there.
Yeah, it's way over there.
Yeah.
And then he's like,
yeah, the 30-mile-an-hour winds, it picked our tent up from where it was, and it rolled it a little ways.
Just a little ways.
The brand new tent that had never been slept in, and it stopped on a cactus.
yeah.
Which was great for the new rain fly.
But luckily, it did do that because I don't think we would have seen that tent. I think the tent would have been, that we wouldn't have been able to find it.
So one of the landmarks you talked about the other day about navigating one is the radio tower that's out there. And we also talked about that idea of, well, if you don't navigate from man-made landmarks, it's actually sometimes better because someday that radio tower is going to come down. Someday that cabin's going to burn down or it's going to fall to the ground, and it'll still show on the map, but it won't be there as a landmark. But it takes a lot for a mountain or a peak or a valley to move. So your landmark was very, very temporary. Your tent, instead of being a mile over here, is a mile to the opposite direction. So
I don't know how you got it off the cactus.
Well, we just pulled it off the cactus. It wasn't, but it did tear our rain fly too much. I had to buy another one. But what we knew that there was going to be winds, but he said he staked it really well, but we didn't wrap it in the rocks. We didn't put rocks on top of the stakes or anything like that. We just put it in the sand, basically sand. Anza-Borrego is sand and dirt.
So on a side note, what I keep in my tent kit, and maybe this is just kind of one of those tips, is in my tent kit, I have my regular stakes. I think I use like either a groundhog stake or an Easton stake for harder soils. But when I know I'm going to sandy soils, I have some snow stakes, just the broad ones, and it's the same type that I use for my poop shovel. And those work really well in sandy and loose soil, just as long as you pull from the middle instead of the top. So but putting rocks on top of them are good. Bags or anchors or other things like that. But it's tough when you think you have it staked out. It's probably as rarely as heavily staked out as you think.
Yeah, it definitely wasn't. So we just basically, he was trying to set it back up so we could stay, and then I said, "Forget it. Just put it in the back of the truck." And
right.
we ended up going out to dinner and having a really nice dinner at Carly's in Anza-Borrego in Borrego Springs, and it was great. And I had some drinks, and we went home.
All right. Perfect. So there was something I was going to add to that one, but okay. Oh, so there's a climber that has a great social media that he's a good person to follow. He's called Semi-Rad, and he's mainly a climber.
Leonard.
Oh, is that who it is? Okay, great. It's a lot of climbing stuff, but a lot of stuff carries over, and he has this awesome flow chart of was it an adventure? It says, get lost and you're cold. Did you break a leg? No. Did this happen? No. Did you die? No. Yes, it's an adventure. So did you die? No.
He did not die.
Was it? Yes, it was an adventure. Done.
What?
We could his flow chart. So fantastic. So perfect. That's great timing. We're at the halfway point. So I'm going to remind people if they've got comments or thoughts to put out for Mike and Sonya, I'll catch them at the very end, throw them in the chat or the Q&A. Probably easier for me to find them in Q&A. So with that, so Mike and Sonya didn't die. We're going to find about Kit and find out if she died. Okay, so Kit's got a story. Tell us, and I can't even remember which one we're going to talk about, but
Well,
oh yeah,
actually,
I remember now. Okay, go ahead.
Okay. I have a little list here, by the way, because when stuff happens, and there's all kinds of stuff that can happen. So I just that is not what you want to see happen on a backpack trip. So I'm going to read you a quick list. There are accidents. There are natural disasters. There's illness. There are embarrassments. There are getting lost. There are something broke. And then there's forgot something, and then miscellaneous. And other than accidents, I've had all of those. So it was really tough to narrow it down.
Yeah, that's right. Because we had this discussion of like, which one should I pick? I'm like, oh, don't worry, we'll do this again. We'll have plenty of opportunities in the future.
I got a list. I've got a list. And the wonderful thing is that you go out often enough and you get a list.
Yeah.
I do have to. My disclaimer that I told Dan is that most of the stuff that's gone wrong on any backpack has been something to do starting with me, and I'm very aware of that. So, so this was a couple of years ago. And I was going with Peter Levin, and we were going to go around because I wanted to climb Mount Tyndall, which was one of the California 14ers. We had already done Williamson from the 395 side like a year or two earlier, and both of us were too dead to do Tyndall. And they're at the same location, and it's a brutal approach. It's up Shepherd's Pass, over Shepherd's Pass, and carrying gear. And we were going to try and do a sort of semi-technical side. It was just no wonder we were pooped. So I've always regretted that I didn't do it. So I've been trying to approach it from the PCT John Muir Trail side. So we start in Horseshoe Meadow. And Dan, what I didn't tell you is on day 2, I got sick. Some kind of a bug, just a little virus. And so we always build an extra day. That's another one of my stories too. It's a really good one. We always have an extra day built into the trip, which I think everybody does. You've got food, you could manage it, that kind of thing. And so it was kind of stretching our extra day, and we weren't really sure if we were going to be able to do the side trail to do Tyndall. And sure enough, we got up there, and I was just still too sick. So, reluctantly decided against that, and we continued on, went over Forester Pass, and we're going to exit out of Onion Valley, Kearsarge Pass. And so we had a little extra day to spend at Kearsarge Lake. So I'm at Kearsarge Lakes. Now I'm feeling great. I wish it was 5 days earlier. And a little bit bummed out, but it's so gorgeous out there. Why would you be bummed? And Tyndall will still be there. And so I'm going, well, you know what? My car is at the Onion Valley Trailhead. Peter's car is at Horseshoe Meadows. So I'm rearranging my pack. I better get my car key out so that I don't have to go digging in my pack tomorrow morning. So I've got it laid out and no car key.
What? Wait, say that again? No car key.
No car key.
Well, surely it's at the bottom of your pack.
You'd think. So we tore it apart. Tore my pack apart, literally tore it apart. I'm going through little, like scenes and things like that. There's no car key. There's nothing. Started to panic. I'm hyperventilating.
How far apart are these two trailheads?
There are 6 days of good long hiking.
My God.
It's Onion Valley. Do you guys been to Onion Valley?
Well,
all right.
Doesn't the Yards bus run to that trailhead?
No.
Okay.
The trailhead. Actually, Dave Cowan was at the trailhead recently, like within the last several years. It's probably about a 15-20 minute drive off of the 395, and it will have a full parking lot, but it doesn't really have a lot of activity going on back and forth. So what do you do?
Sounds like you're screwed. Okay, so we got to the crux of Kit's problem. She doesn't have a car key, and
No
she's coming to a trailhead. She's a day and a half, 2 days away from her exit, and you don't have communication with anybody on the outside. Well, I'm assuming you don't.
No
Nobody
cell
else?
coverage.
Yeah. Now,
And the cell coverage at Onion Valley, which is the trailhead, is extremely spotty. Maybe yes,
so
maybe
yeah,
no.
you got a couple of problems there, right? So you don't have good communication at the trailhead. You'd have to go out. Maybe you could get communication at a high pass. Probably not. Maybe, you know, there's only a few places on the JMT where you have that. Yeah, so you got some problems. So what are some? Tell us some of the possibilities.
Well, there were possibilities at the time. I had my oldest son lived in Bishop, and I was thinking if there's any possible way I could get to where there was cell coverage. I didn't have a cell phone because I didn't have things on it at the time. So I didn't have a cell phone, but Peter did. But he had kind of like an independent carrier, which means he can talk to nobody. You know, it's like cricket or something like that. If he's watching, I'm sorry, Peter, but that is so true. That sucker is worthless. So we also knew that we had a cell phone that wasn't going to do us any good. I thought perhaps, you know, we could hitchhike down to 395. Peter could show a leg. We'll get to Bishop. You know?
Now that actually is a real possibility. Yeah.
That was the best possibility.
Yeah.
That's what we were looking at. We were also looking at that taking up to a couple of days to get actually down out of Onion Valley and all the way and then get to Bishop, someplace where I could get to a phone.
Now, if there's a chance that you lock the key in the car, you could break a window and buy a new window, even if you couldn't get Auto Club for lockouts. Even if you got Auto Club, they can't start the ignition if you don't have the key. They can get you in the car, and that's it.
No, it's a key fob, so this would have been a tough one. I was almost 100% sure that I didn't lock the key in the car because you have to lock it with the fob.
Oh, sure.
So when we got down there, you know, we would find out for sure that, no, we're still screwed.
Okay. So
now, preventatively, and since then, I've got a little magnetic key container. And that's what I put my spare key in, and then I put it under someplace.
So that's a precautionary one, but you didn't have that. So
no.
So
that's my takeaway.
Besides kicking yourself, what'd you end up doing?
I felt horrible, obviously, and I was panicked. And, you know, it had already been a long trip, very beautiful, but, you know, it kind of took a lot out of me, and I did a lot of crying. You know, there's no crying in backpacking. Yes. Anyway, so, you know, we just had a nice long afternoon, rested by the Kearsarge Lakes, and the next morning, and of course, the whole time I'm talking about, you know, I can't believe this happened, what are we going to do? There is no answer. My heart goes out to Peter, because he just had to listen to that. And so we started up from Kearsarge Lakes, about, I want to say it's not quite 1,000 feet, but about that to get to Kearsarge Pass. And so he's walking behind me, and I am still talking up this trail. And the trail actually goes up from Kearsarge Lakes to the trail junction that goes over the pass. So we, you know, it's kind of a T intersection. So I'm talking the whole time, like, I can't believe I did this. I cannot believe that I left. Where did I leave the key? Did I leave it in my purse? Is it back in like your trunk? Did I drop it somewhere? I mean,
so you're talking to yourself and verbally abusing yourself as you hike along.
Isn't that what you're supposed to do?
Well, I don't know. Did it help?
I felt horrible. I kept thinking of all the different ways this isn't going to work. I mean, I was just sludging to a halt. So, and then we got up almost to the junction, and I had talked myself into where I'm just like, I'm really sorry. We're not going to ever get out here anyway. I'm going to rot in this desert here. Just taking it to the end as possible. And then the weirdest thing happened, which is, of course, I wasn't shouting, but I was talking. And there was an older couple just up ahead of me on the trail coming down from Kearsarge. And we'd been kind of standing around talking, and they had apparently been listening and could tell what the matter was. I'm sobbing.
How could you not listen to a train wreck story like that?
I know. I mean, everybody's commiserating.
That's entertainment right there.
Oh, it was wonderful. You know, did you look in your pack? And of course, I looked in my pack. Anyway, so this woman comes up to me, and she's, you know, a couple years older than I am. She and her husband, and she goes, "Oh, sweetheart, that just sounds terrible." It is. And she said, well, we just came up over the pass and we're not coming back for about 4 days. So why don't you take the keys to my car and then you can just drive the car over and pick up his car and just bring it back.
That's so this person that you've
Don't know
never
her.
formally introduced you to is going to all but give you a $20,000 car,
Yep.
let you drive it, retrieve your car, and then drive it back.
Yeah, I'm driving to Horseshoe Meadows. That is
And when they
50
come
miles
back,
around.
when they come out in a week, they're going to hope that it's there.
Yeah, they gave me a place to hide it. They're trusting that I'm going to take the car,
Okay.
put gas in it. I said, I'll put gas in it. Go, don't worry about that, honey. And then the key will be there. I was stunned.
So that's what you did?
That's what we did.
So you used their vehicle, retrieved yours, both of you went and got one and then drove it back. So really all you were out was the drive time back and forth and however you paid it forward with them.
Right. And so, that was the other part was that I said, oh my gosh, you know what? We'll fill it up with gas. Is there anything I can do? And she goes, oh, honey, just pay it forward. I know you will.
That's so cool. So
I know.
I'm going to take a minute for a couple questions, but what's interesting about that one, and this is one of the reasons why I like this story, is because I had a very, very similar incident where we were going North Lake to South Lake and we needed to get back to our car. We purposely brought one car. I thought, we'll just hitchhike. Not a heavily traveled trailhead. You get there and like, oh, and it turns out same thing. Somebody overhears us. They're like, oh, I could go do that. It turns out these people are from the same town my parents live in. They shop at the same store, and they gave us
the chances.
No. What are the odds? But I think for me, that really illustrates that you can trust people in the backcountry.
That was my big takeaway from that is that, well, obviously, don't be stupid about your key. That's my big takeaway. And I've come up with a couple of solutions, one of which, yes.
Where was the key?
Oh my gosh, I want to know.
Oh, yeah. Did you ever figure out where it was?
Yeah, where was the key?
Well, it was, okay.
In your pocket.
Backstory on this is that I do have a tendency to forget things. Most of my list, most of the terrible things that have happened have been because I've forgotten something. With Jim Kurtz and Peter Levin, I forgot my hiking shoes on a portion of the PCT for 80 miles. So, I mean, so my dad always said, make a habit, just make a habit. Make one! So my habit is when I have my keys in my hand, I never let them out. I always put them in my purse.
and nobody brings a purse when they go backpacking.
Nope. And because it's a habit, I didn't remember doing it. So
Okay.
that's where it was. Yep.
Awesome.
But anyway, my takeaway was that we are really fortunate in the backcountry. It's a really, by and large, a wonderful community. And yes, we have to not be stupid, be careful. But it is more often than not, I hear, especially in search and rescue situations, that it's the kindness of strangers that actually is what saved the situation.
Yeah. So I got a couple minutes I got maybe 2-3 minutes for a few questions. So I'm going to see if I can flip through them. I think it's Dave says, Dan, where's the Salt Lick barbecue place? It's outside. I believe it's outside of Amarillo, Texas, or it could be Austin. I forget. Maybe it's Austin. I think it's Austin. And what's funny is I was wearing this in an airport one time. It's like one of my comfy travel shirts. And this person goes in Chicago and they're like, son, you're a long ways away from Texas. I'm like, I don't even live there, but so. There was a comment on, Dave said that he had coverage on Kearsarge before, and that probably
What's a carrier?
includes the carrier, right? Having the right carrier. If you got a discount carrier, because usually I think the way it works is there's really two main carriers, and everybody else is just piggybacks off their antennas. Only some of them. So that's kind of a funny one. Another comment on another good anchor for sandy stakes is a plastic grocery bag filled with sand. And I've done that before too. You just need
That's what I use.
a cord
Yeah.
to tie off of it. What will often happen though is you can't use that multiple times because it'll just, once it gets a small tear in it, it destroys. But they're
Shreds.
ridiculously strong. You can fill it all the way up with sand if you grab both handles.
And
It'll hold well.
bags are so light. That's perfect. I like it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Let's see. Anything else that was really, really grabbing us? Kelly's saying definitely Austin. Okay, that sounds right. I can't remember. I've been to Texas a few times for work. Interesting comment. This is an interesting one from Dave. He says, people won't do that for through hikers, the keys to the car, but through hikers do get a lot of trail magic, a lot of grace, a lot of peer. Now maybe some of that's drying up a little bit as we get more through hikers. I don't know. Yeah, I would probably not ever give a through hiker keys to my car.
That's a very good point, and neither would I. And I think it was pretty clear we weren't through hikers. And
Sure.
yeah.
Wow. Okay. Everybody lived. That's great. I'm glad to
Yeah.
hear that. Okay.
It's a wonderful adventure. By the way, that same trip from Horseshoe Meadows up over Old Army Pass, up into Mitre Basin, over Crabtree Pass, down to Crabtree Lakes, to the PCT, up to Tyndall Frog Pond, into Tyndall. I'm going to try it for the 5th time, starting the 13th.
Good
Third
luck.
time's a charm. Fifth time's a charm. I mean, yeah.
5th time's the charm.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Sonya, Mike, thanks for sharing. Kit, thanks for sharing. I appreciate you guys taking time to share your stories and to expose yourself a little bit, right? Because you're saying, this was me. This is something I did. And I think, for me, I think if someone can learn off of a little bit of embarrassment from us, that's a wonderful thing. So next week I'll be back. I'm going to have Saul on, and we're going to talk about taking pets out on the trail. So
Cool.
You got a pooch. I don't know about a pet cat. Like, maybe I could bring one of my chickens out on the trail.
Appetizers.
That's right. So we've got a rooster, and I keep threatening to take care of that rooster for her. And so anyway, we'll be talking about pets on the trail. So thanks everybody for joining. Kit, Sonya, Mike, appreciate you. Have a great week, everybody. Take care.
Bye.
Thanks, Dan.
Okay, bye now.